Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shoot the Gap, an IDP Fantasy podcast here on Fantasy and Frames. I'm JT. I'm hosting the show tonight. Jorge, our fearless leader, is on vacation. Good for him. Needs a break. Out with the fam. So I called up my guy, IDP Hunter, here to bring you buys and sells in Dynasty. So we're going to jump right into this thing. We've got a lot of guys we want to talk about, guys that, both me and Steve both love, guys that were like, oh, I'm on that guy big time. So let's just get into them so you guys know. Let's start off here, Steve. Let's start off with the edges. Who are some edge rushers that out there maybe guys are forgetting about? Maybe guys who people have kind of, maybe the luster's gone a little bit that you can go out and you think you can go buy for maybe a decent price and you think is going to be very productive this year.
Heck yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. I just want to take a minute and announce the elephant in the room. Jorge's not here. That's a massive void that we have to fill. Hopefully your audience will be entertaining enough to fill that void. I mean, it reminds me of when Nightwing had to take over for Batman during Final Crisis, or even as massive as when Hulk Hogan had to take over and carry the WWF when Bruno Santini retired. Or how about when Bret the Hitman Hart or Shawn Michaels had to take over when Hogan went to the WCW? That is the task me and JT have to have tonight. So hopefully we give you enough names, enough entertainment that you'll stay in, glue in, and talk to us the rest of the show.
Absolutely. You are 100% correct on that. I know Jorge's going to be back next week, so we're pumped. But if you guys got any questions, do you have any of your own buys and sells, or guys you want to know about what we think about them, feel free to jump in on the comments in there. We'll answer them all. So you just jump in there. You say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we'll jump on in and answer those. No problem. And as always, if you do have offensive questions, feel free to throw those in there. I'll answer those typically in the chat as opposed to on screen. But hey, we're kind of doing things loose and fast tonight, so we might mix it up. Maybe we'll throw them in there. We'll see how much time we got. So let's jump into these. I love the fact that we've finally made this adjustment at IDP. Just want to say that leagues that allow you to move these guys are considered linebackers, but are basically rushing the passer most of the time. And now we've kind of come around and everyone's like, yeah, I'm in on the edge position. Guys are typically rushing. So I was full force for making this change a couple of years ago. I'm glad that a lot of the platforms have done it. And then also that they've allowed managers to take over and adjust positions in a lot of areas, which I love as an IDP commissioner. I love the fact that I can adjust positions as needed if guys change teams or if teams change philosophies, so guys don't get stuck. Hey, man, I had 4D edges last year, 4D ends, and now they're all listed at linebacker because the team went from a 3-4 to a 4-3. So that little bit out there. The first guy I think you had on your list, and this is, obviously a player I'm going to love because he's the black and gold, Alex Highsmith from the
Yes, sir. I mean, when you look at Highsmith,
the guy's name's been out there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at Highsmith, right, this is a guy who every year he gets 500 pass rush attempts. Every single year he has 500 pass rush opportunities. Last season he was on for a good pace, right? He had 298 pressures, and that generated amazing 298 he got 48 pressures. He was on a great pace. All of a sudden, that got cut short to an injury. He missed 5 games with a groin injury. So the tweet I posted to you, I'm like, oh, what could have been? I'm really excited about buying Highsmith on a low like this because that's what we want to do as an audience. We want to buy on the low, sell on the high. That's what a lot of our players are, buying on low, selling high. This guy plays every week opposite of TJ Watt. So what does that mean? Well, TJ Watt usually gets the easier offensive lineman assignment. This guy is going to go against one of the better linemen. Hence, the teams like to run his direction a lot. So he gets a lot of tackle points as well as those pressure points. So Alex Highsmith's a guy that I'm targeting just about everywhere.
I like where your head's at there on Highsmith because, again, it's like the injuries, whenever he's played, He's been phenomenal the last couple of years. The injuries have piled up. He's missed some games, so that always gets fantasy managers a little frustrated. You saw Herbig was real nice when he came in last year. Now they went and draft Sawyer, who I really like. Obviously, he's going to be a depth piece. But I think you're right. I think people are kind of forgetting about Alex Highsmith a little bit here. I think he's a really nice buy if you can get him. Because, again, you always have those managers in every league that when a guy gets injured, they think about the injuries more than the actual production. They're like, oh, I can't trust this guy. I can't count on him. They're ready to get rid of him. But he's a guy who's been super productive when he's been in there. And, again, like you said, whenever you're playing opposite of a TJ Watt type of player, you're going to get a good shot to make some plays. I mean, they're going to have to put a lot of attention on him. So I really like that. I really like that buy. I'm in a startup IDP right now, and I've got Highsmith just sitting there in my queue. I'm waiting because everybody's running out of money, and it's an auction startup. So everybody's running out of money. I'm just like waiting to the end so I can put up Highsmith for like $1 and hope nobody has anybody to outbid me so I can get him. So I'm in on that. Here's a good question right off the bat. Let's talk about this guy, little Kavon Tibido. What do we think? Is he a sell? Is he a buy? This Giants pass rush looks like it's got talent. Is he going to be one of the guys benefiting, or is it everybody else around him? What do you think?
So JT, I don't know if you remember, we were talking about this on the IDP Facebook page as well. Somebody heard that as article they were reading that Thibodeau, they're scared because Abdul Carter is taken over allegedly. Well, let's peel back the onion. Let's pause a second, peel back this onion. Abdul Carter's a rookie for one. 2, they're all going to be on some kind of rotation, which is good. That means they're going to be hungry. 3, Abdul Carter's coming off an injury. So the time to sell Thibodeau is not right now. It would have been before the NFL draft or after he has his first, great game, week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever. Wait for him to have a 2-sack, 3-sack performance, and then you can sell him. But you're not going to sell him now when the value is an all-time low. Again, like we said at the beginning of this episode, you want to sell these guys on their high, at their peak. And then you want to get these guys on their low when their ADP is depressed. So Kavon Thibodeau's not a sell right now for me. He's a hold.
I agree with you. I was looking at the charts, kind of seeing what where guys are kind of getting listed, where they're going to possibly play. Thibodeau's a guy that's interesting to me because there's a chance they bump him inside a little bit, and if he would become D tackle eligible and a D tackle for me, if he gets moved inside there, and I think depending on like you said with the injury. To Abdul Carter, how quickly they rush him back, whether they take some time with him. It's going to be really interesting kind of how they work that system. Right now, I think you're right. I don't think he is a sell because I don't think we're not sure what's going to happen. We need things to kind of figure out what's going to move on. You need a guy to have a big game. Like I said, if Abdul Carter just comes on out of nowhere and him and Burns are just wreaking havoc, you're not going to sit a guy like Thibs. You're just not going to. So you got to figure out where you're going to play him. So what does that mean? That means you got to move him inside a little bit. Maybe he becomes like a 4 tech, a 3 tech, somewhere in there in that range. Now, is he a guy then gives you really good pass rush from the inside? And if he's really playing the inside and he would count as a D tackle.
To quote the great Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold him and know when to fold him. Again, just wait for that 2-3 sack performance, and he's capable of it. He's gone on those kind of runs before. Wait for that big game. Put him on your trade block, or I don't know. Trade block is where players go to die. Just dangle on your league. Somebody's going to want to take a shot with a player like that, and then go ahead and cash in. But yeah, I don't get rid of players when they're in the boneyard. Let them have a good week or two, then get off them. But yeah, there's a rotation there, and that's not bad for IDP. That's not bad. There's a rotation. That just means that everybody's going to be coming off the passer, So their defensive coordinator previously with the Titans, he's a quality defensive coordinator. He has a plan for all these guys, and they'll all be in play at some point this season. But I don't think timing's everything, for every season. It's not the season to sell Tib. You hold him until he has a big game. That's a good question.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, the only time I'm probably selling him right now is if I know I've got some Giants fans or big like Oregon Thib fans in my league who have been after me for him. If somebody's kind of after me for him, I wouldn't mind just testing the water, see what they give up right now. Now, will you get max value like you said? Probably not right at the moment. But if you have somebody that's big into and is worried about the Carter injury, which, I mean, him going, top 3 overall doesn't make me think that they're super worried about the Carter injury. But again, that would be one of the things. If I had somebody that's been kind of harassing me and really likes him, I might be willing to see what they would give me for him now, especially in some kind of package deal. But I like where your head's at there. Let's go on to our next edge rusher, another guy that I think is just getting ready to blow up, and that's Chop Robinson from the Dolphins. Chop, tell me what you like on Chop. I like Chop a ton. He was a big buy for me last year.
Well, let's just talk about that. This is his rookie
I think he just
year.
Keeps going up. What do you think?
Yeah, he's coming off his rookie year, which usually guys struggle. He did. He looked like a pro from day one. He finished and he was ranked as top 25 edge rusher in total pressures. He actually had a 16.2% pressure pass rush rate. And out of all that, he generated 6 sacks. And that's as a rookie coming off the bench. There's plenty more volume and production to come his way. If you look in drafts right now, I don't have the number in front of me, but his ADP's buried. I see him going way deep, way late everywhere. And the argument is he's in a rotation, just like the Giants fan asked earlier. Hey, what about Tib? He's in rotation. This guy's in a rotation with Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, and himself. But the difference between him and the other two is those two are coming off injuries. So expect Chop to do much better year 2.
I agree with you too. I mean, the stats were there for the amount of snaps he was getting. So to me, it feels like a buy now before he explodes. Because I just have a feeling like if you wait to try to get Chop till mid-year, after the year, you're going to be paying through the nose for him. I just think it's just right now is the time to buy him, just because those guys are coming out for injuries. They are big names too. Jalen Phillips and Chubb, those guys are big names. So
and just for comparison, anything over a 10% pressure rate is pretty darn good. That's a veteran season. This guy had 16.2 coming in the league. He's only going to get better. So great way. You can't gauge sacks year to year, but you can certainly gauge pressures and tackles for loss. Those are good metrics to look at defensive linemen with. 16.2 coming out the gate. They told him to go out there, and he went with it. Top 25. I mean, that's something that I would sign up for. Those are players that I'm looking for, young guys that can get to the ball.
I love it. Everybody knew that he had the NFL frame. It was like, could he put it together? Because the same thing at Penn State. Like, he had great percentages, good rates. He just didn't always get home. I think that's going to – we got a great question here from Scouting Profiles. Why is everyone so high on Jared Verse from the Rams? He says, don't get that 4 sacks. So he's not big on Verse. He's trying to figure out why people are so high on Verse. I think Steve, you got the answer on why most people are really high on Verse.
Yeah. Same premise, same question that we're talking. The same thing goes with the analogy we used on Chop Robinson. It's the pressures. If you're buying in on Verse, like we just said, just don't look at the sacks. It was 4.5 last year. Look at the pressures. He had 89 total pressures last year. That ranked 3rd. He had a win rate of 27.3%. And he logged 50% or more of the team's pass rush. When you translate all that together, that's going to equal success. You're not always going to get to the quarterback. You're not always going to close up. But if you track those pressures, 9 out of 10 times you're probably right. So the same camp that's in on Chop Robinson, you're going to be on Jared Verse. We would have talked more about Verse, but that seems like an obvious buy to me. A lot of people are buying. They might be buying him a little too high, to be honest,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Me and Jorge were playing in those fast drafts. I don't know if you're playing in those fast drafts. People are taking
I haven't. I've been looking at them, but I haven't got in just yet.
Yeah, I got a promo code, IDP Hunter. If they do Hunter, you get $50 cash back. So it's the same thing. I'm sure you guys have one too. But, I play in a lot of those. And, after the top 8 edge rushers come aboard, people are like, who's it going to be? Jonathan Allen, Chubb, Daniel Hunter, Nito. They're throwing names out there. Verse tends to go at the end. So a lot of people are kind of thinking the same thing we are. So Verse is an interesting one. Is he a buy or sell? Are you selling as peak? You're selling whatever. I think that he hasn't peaked yet, hence the 4.5 sacks. I think he can do much better So
I agree. I feel like his value's gone way up, but I still think he's got room to grow there. If he has a big year this year, here's the thing: is at edge rusher, as you look at it now, a lot of the top end guys are starting to get to that late 20s, early 30s range, and so especially if you're in Dynasty, you're going to start seeing some of these younger guys come up in value just because you're going to see the Myles Garretts, the TJ Watts, the Max Crosbys are starting for dynasty value. You're going to start going for some of these young guys. Brandon jumps in here and says, you want Verse because he's a beast. I agree with you. He is a beast. So, again, the sacks weren't 100% there last year, but he was getting the volume. And I actually think that that Rams defense is going to be pretty tough this year. I think Verse having another year, just like Chop, I think those guys got double-digit sack total written all over them. So, those are guys that could get high-end stuff. So, Brandon also jumps in here. He says, will Anderson crack 20 sacks defensive player of the year? If you had to throw a few dollars down on that, Steve, would you go Will Anderson 20 sacks and a defensive player of the year? What's your percentage chance?
Oh man, I'm a negative Nelly and I'm not a gambler, so don't take me for it. But 20's high for anything. I would rather bet on some Joe. I'd rather bet if JT gets half a sack than the other way around. You know what I mean? Like 20's high to get. I mean, you got to be on a roll. So again, don't take me. I'm probably Jamie on my show is the one who does all the bets. I'm kind of afraid of doing stuff like that. Don't mortgage your house on something I say here. But Will Anderson, yeah, he's a top player to me. 20 sacks is a little too high for me. I'm sorry.
I think he could be in the defensive player of the year mix. I mean, I don't think, depending on the odds, I have to be honest with you, I have not jumped in to all my season long bets yet. I haven't got to that point in my off season here to look at it. But like you said, 20 sacks is just, you got to have a magical season. You just really do. Things have to go right. You have to have a couple monster games where you're going against a bad team where you just wallop and get 4 or 5. It's just the way it works to get 20. Because it's odds on that, which if I was, I'd throw $5 down on it. But I do think Will Anderson has a chance to have a really big year this year. I think Houston's due for a little step up after a little bit of a down year last year. So I do like Will Anderson there. Let's talk about our third and final edge buy. And that's Yaya. Great name. Yaya Diablo from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Gotta love him, not only because of the name, but why do you love him, Steve?
Same premise we were talking about. He was one of the top guys per PFF at the metrics, everything. I almost wanted to tell you, this is a little too rich of a take. I was going to say buy Yaya, sell Cansey, but they're both young. So I'd kind of take them both and play with it. But Yaya's a guy I've been watching. He's got all the metrics. I don't want to bore you with all that. I think he is a player that I can get. And one thing, too, I like the DL/LB capability that I can pull off on Sleeper. So sign me up for that.
Fan of when I can get multiple positions on defense on Sleeper. So you can't do it on My Fantasy League. You have to pick one. Now you can always go in and ask your commish which one you want, which I allow people to do that in my league. If a guy's an outside guy and he's technically listed as a linebacker, but I really think he's an edge, I let people pick. I'm like, do you want him on your team for the whole year as a linebacker, or you want him as a D end? So I let people kind of decide that at the beginning of the year, and then they're locked in. I don't let them go back and forth. But on Sleeper, I love that when I can get D-line LB eligibility, especially if you're not in super deep leagues as far as benches are concerned. You really don't want to be picking up and dropping guys constantly in those leagues because you lose your best defensive players. So I like it where I can move those guys back and forth to play off bye weeks and to play off injuries. So like you said, whenever I can get a guy that does a little bit of both, man, those are a slight edge when I'm ranking them and when I'm drafting or trading for them, if I know I can get them as a dual eligible guy. Level Up Lore says, any other DL linebacker you like as buys? Well, interesting. You just said that. We're going to get into some linebacker buys we got right now. So here's some of the guys. Let's start off. We got a list of a few here. the guy that's gonna is a real interesting one because I've had people ask me about him. They're like, "Do you think he's legit?" And that's Germaine Sherwood for the Jets. CJ Mosley, we've just found out he's done. The neck injury is too serious. He is officially retiring, which a lot of people talked about. That might be the case after the injury last year. It just seemed like it was going to be a lot of his age to come back from, and he has made the decision earlier this week that he is going to officially retire. They signed Sherwood to extension. Do you believe that Sherwood last year was
so Sherwood
him and he's going to be there?
Yeah, Sherwood came in week 2 last year, and he ended up being a quick study. He got 158 tackles. The advanced metrics tell you even better. He ranked 13 out of a possible 64 qualified, linebackers. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, well, tackles can be anything. You'd be drugged down the field 7-8 yards. No, this guy was actually making his tackles between 0.078 of a rushing yard. He didn't allow anything. He didn't surrender a single touchdown across 558 snaps. That was probably the 4th best marker amongst linebackers without giving up a score. So, kind of to finish this all up nicely, he has the stats plus 34 run defense stops. He's only 25 years old. He's going to grow into it. He showed the Jets that they don't need a CJ Mosley anymore. So, yes, I'm buying, and I have him as a tier 1 linebacker. That's a guy that I'm targeting. Most people know about him by now, but if you're in a league that's sleeping, maybe they're not active, maybe they're not making a lot of trades, maybe don't believe in Sherwood, the metrics, the stats, and the opportunity are there. It all lines up.
I like it. I've been telling people he's a buy. I believe in him, like you said. That, and I hate to rip on my guy, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but he's like the opposite of EJ Speed. Like, he was making all his tackles at the line of scrimmage, was doing everything the way his grades were through the roof. And then you saw a guy like EJ Speed who almost had, similar fantasy numbers, but then like all the metrics for him making tackles 6 yards downfield, like always being out of position, diving in and getting extra like assists at the last second. Not that it always matters for fantasy, because as long as they're getting you points, it's good. But it does, Steve, I will say this for people, it does make a factor on how long that guy will hold his job. So you might get some guys that score really nice fantasy points one year, but the metrics are terrible. They will lose their job earlier than other guys for dynasty long-term purposes.
I think me and you play the same way. We'll stack our offense first, and we'll get those volume-based linebackers from year to year. The guys like the Alex Anzalonis that are kind of just hanging around, whatever, right? From year to year, you can change these pieces out. But, like, for players that we're mentioning these metrics for, the Edge Coopers, the Verses, the Germaine Sherwood, like, you could, like, build a dynasty team around those pieces and just build and pick up players as you go. So, yeah, I really enjoy these players that we're discussing.
Yeah, and level up, if you're still paying linebacker eligible we like, hit me up with that. We're doing the all-ball linebackers, but I'll give you some. We can throw some in here at the end of the show that we really like that are combo eligible on Sleeper. In case that was exactly what you're asking, I didn't answer your question. I thought about it after I answered. I was like, wait, he might be asking us about guys that are specifically both. So we can jump back into it after we get through some of these buys. So here's another guy. This is one of the positions, and I don't know how you feel about it, Steve. This is one of the positions, off-ball linebacker. I don't mind buying older players in Dynasty, because I think they can hit for you. They can give you 2 good years, 3 good years, and sometimes that's all you need out of them. I think Blake Cashman for the Vikings falls right into this one. I love when you had him on the list. I think he's a guy that, some people are going to look at him and be like, oh, his last year, some injuries. They might be off of him. I think he's cheap this year. What do you think?
So 2 talking points before we dig into Blake Cashman, right? It used to be, I've been playing IDP since 2004, right? So it used to be only inside linebackers. That's what you want. The game has morphed in the last 5-6 years. Off-ball linebackers are just fine. You got guys that are off-ball linebackers. I'm going back to Shaq Leonard, to Roquan Smith. There were guys that were off-ball linebackers that shattered the game. It's all about how they play, how they scheme. A lot of teams play their off balls like they would their mics, but but I digress. With Blake Cashman, there seems to be a split community because I've heard this on other shows. Blake Cashman stinks. He used to stink with the Jets. Honestly, if you really look at tape, Blake Cashman, he's been a relatively unknown. When he did play, he was good. His issue was injuries. So, I'll live and die on that hill. He's a former 5th-round pick, relatively unknown, like I said. He topped 150 defensive snaps 3 straight seasons now. But he finally broke out in 2023. When he broke out, he was top 10 graded, 82.1% amongst all linebackers. But he did it again after 2023. He did it in 2024. He gave us 947 snaps, and he finished 22nd in PFF overall at 72 grade. He's essentially great against the run, and he's earned a 76.3% grade. He's issued in. He's locked in now as a green dot defender. And he's keeping Ivan Pace off the field, which is killing some of our taxi squad stashes. But yeah, that scheme usually plays the one linebacker, 3 downs. He gets it. He's another top player. I actually made a trade, JT. I got Cashman and Sherwood for some of the guys on the list that we have as sell. So I'm kind of excited about both of those two, in the tier 1 category.
Yeah, if you look at last year, Cashman, depending on what your scoring system was like, he was somewhere in the 230 to almost low 300 range for scoring, depending on how your league scoring, if it was really high or low. And that was in 14 games, and then you look at the 14 games the year before when he was in Houston, he put up like in that a little bit less numbers, still in that range, over 100 tackles. So again, if he stays healthy, he's another one of those guys, like you said, some people just see the injuries. They're like, oh, well, I needed him that 1 week, it was hurt. And then they're off on guys. So he's a guy I definitely think, just because he's not a sexy name, he hasn't been out there a lot. He hasn't done it a bunch of years in a row. He's kind of one of those, like Zaire Franklin for the Colts, one of those late risers. He's a guy that had to kind of earn his way on special teams for 3 or 4 years and then finally gets a chance to play and then crushes it. I really like him. Again, like you said, he's 29, so it's not like he's ancient. He's really doesn't have a ton of snaps on his record outside the last couple seasons. So if he would have played full 17 game slate the last 2 years, he would have been really pushing that top 10. So I like where your head's at on him. I'm big on in there. Jamie, a guy well, he said, "Who's that handsome guy to the right?" Always Jamie nice bringing the compliments. Also, he says Cashman won the best balls last
Who's
year.
Who's on the right? Is he watching us in the mirror? Which one of us is on the right? I think he's talking about
you. I'm pretty sure he's talking about you.
I don't know. He may have it backwards, man. I don't know.
But Cashman was Jamie brings it up, great best ball guy last year. He said he grabbed him in the 30th round of a league. I have him on a couple best ball IDP teams. He's a great guy for that because, he's going to get you points most weeks for sure. How much sexier can you get than Cashman? That's right. He's cash, straight cash, baby. Gotta love it. So Cashman is definitely a buy for us. Next guy on the list, I have to be honest with you. This is a guy that it's been very hard for me to come around on. Mm-hmm. And he really surprised me last year in that, like, I had to really go back and look, and I was like, all right, I'm officially wrong. He's good. And that's Devin Lloyd from the Jags. I just was out on Lloyd. I was such a huge Chad Muma guy, but I was like, they drafted Lloyd in the first. Muma's never going to get a chance unless he gets hurt. And I just thought Lloyd was way overrated. But
so the argument for Devin Lloyd, he's in a final contract year. You know how that goes with these players, right? But also the Jaguars are changing their team scheme right now. Okay, the guy they brought in to coach the Jaguar defense, his name is Anthony Campanelli, Campanile. I don't know how to pronounce it, Campanelli. But anyway, he is a really good, refined linebackers coach. He's really good. He's had on his resume with Miami and Green Bay. He's notorious for fixing linebacker schemes. That's what the Jaguars need. Most of his units, especially last year, he helped that unit get less than 4 yards a carry and 99 rushing yards per game. Lloyd's heading into that contract year, like we just said, right? He just delivered us 113 tackles on a 12.8% tackle rate, 84.2% run grade. Now, granted, the Jaguars are going to install that 4-3 scheme. Who's going to be the Mike? Is it going to be Olakun again? Is it going to be Lloyd? I think it's going to be Lloyd. I think Lloyd's going to show off this year. Olakun's getting a little older. They're moving him around. And you could argue Olakun might be a buy too, but I don't know. But I think out of the 3-4 linebackers they have in that shift, I think it's going to be Lloyd because that's what Lloyd does well.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think they're going to change some stuff up. He's a guy I like. If he has another big year, I could see them extending him. Because he was really good last year. If he comes up and he ends up being the leader of that defense, and we see a lot of improvement on that Jags defense, then I think there's a chance. I was out because I thought there was no way they're going to re-sign Lloyd before last year. I'm like, they're letting him go. There's no way. But then he played so well last year. If he adjusts and has another really good year this year, I think there's a very good chance they end up sticking with him. We got another question here in the chat. This is a good one. We might have to talk about volume or who you just take. So Lollygagger 1984 says, would you rather have Sherwood, Cashman, or Ernest Jones? First, tell me what order you like them in, and then value order, because I think there's one guy I'd rather have, but I think there's certain guys that are better values.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the way I have my rankings, I actually have it Sherwood, then I have it Cashman, then I have it Ernest Jones. I know that's not the consensus right now, but that's how strongly I feel about the other two. Ernest Jones, nothing wrong with him. We know what we're going to get. We know what we're going to see, but I think highly of the other two, especially if you're in a tackle-heavy league like the ones me and JT playing, but that's my batting order. Sherwood, Cashman, Ernest Jones.
I think I got to lean that way with you. The thing about Ernest Jones is, man, he has been so good through most of his career. But then doesn't it make you nervous that teams would move on for him so much? The fact that he was just getting traded nonstop last year, like you just don't see that from a guy with his production in the NFL. So then you start to wonder, like, man, is he like a locker room cancer? Is he a guy that like everybody on the other team everybody doesn't get along with? And so is he like a problem with the coaches? Again, I have no insider information on that. So this is me just throwing out random questions of what could be the case, but that does make you worry when you get a guy like that, and then you wonder, is he ever going to get a super long-term deal? Is anyone going to really lock him in? Or is he going to be the Brandon Cooks of defense, where he always puts up solid numbers, but he's just moving year to year to year to year. He's just going to a new team. He's going to be okay for you. You can definitely play him, but he's not a guy you want to build your team around.
Great comparison, Brandon Cooks. Or for our older audience, I don't know if you remember Ernest Dickerson. He couldn't stay on the team, save his life. He kept getting moved around. And it may just be that. It may just be like, sorry, we're going to go this direction, and you just at wrong place, wrong time. I don't know. I don't know how musical chairs work. I never made it to the NFL.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just the way some guys hit with certain teams, and sometimes it's just circumstance. Nothing the player did either. So, like I said, I'm not saying it's necessarily Ernest Jones all the way. It could just be circumstance, the way it worked out with the teams and who they wanted and who they didn't want. Next guy, another one.
All three of those guys, I'll play on my team. I'll gladly play them. I mean, they're all top, 12, 13, whatever at their position. But, yeah, I will take them all.
Yeah, I think that was a good order. That's kind of probably where I would lean slightly as well. I could see you talking me into Jones over Cashman in some certain situations, but I think definitely Sherwood's the first guy I'm taking there. The next guy on this list is a guy I love, and I think the value is going to rise on this guy, and I think now's the time to get in on him, and that is Peyton Wilson. The other Wilson for the Steelers. Really started to see playing time last year, started taking Alonzo Roberts' spot. And as the season went on, we saw he was in during big time situations, and he was one of those guys that kept making plays when it mattered. And that's what he did in college at North Carolina. I think he is due for a big year this year, going in for the full season as the number 2 guy, as the clear-cut starter. He's not sharing time this year. I think Peyton Wilson for the Steelers could have a monster year.
Well said. Let's break that down. Landon Roberts is gone now, right? Starting jobs up for grabs. All he's got to do is keep Malik Harrison off him and Cole Holcomb, who's been injured, floating around camp. Then he's an automatic LB2. The opportunity's there. Now, I'm not calling my shot yet, but the opportunity's there he could threaten Patrick Queen, who's another one of my sells, by the way. I know people love Queen, but he's been underperforming. If you look at PFF, JT, every major statistical category, Peyton Wilson has Queen beat. Every single one. And then, not to mention, this guy was a third-round draft pick, so he has the draft capital. And he also had a 14.3% tackle rate last year. And he did all this on only 45% of the snap count.
Yeah, I think people forget he was, if not the best, one of the best linebackers in college. If it wasn't for the injury history with him, I think he goes way earlier than that. I think he ends up being either LB1 or LB2 in that draft class. He fell to the third because of some injury concerns, because he's a guy that plays wild. He's a guy that goes it all out 100% all the time. And so he's had some knick-knack injuries in college. So far, he's looked good last year. And and this pains me to say, as someone who was insanely pumped about the Patrick Queen signing for the Steelers. He was like the guy I wanted in the offseason. He has, like you said, a little underperformed. He has. I still play him. I still have him, but he's not been the guy we thought he was going to be.
So I did the draft profile on Peyton Wilson. To your point, right? Really good tape. He's making these one-handed tackles, knocking people out. But then what's the con? He's getting injured. These shoulder injuries. So he's got to have to learn to stay healthy. But everything is there. The compass is up for him to excel as a traditional historical linebacker. The Steelers haven't had one statistically in IDP in a while. And like I said, Queen, I don't want to give it away too much, but he's a sell for me for the last couple of years. If he's not getting pressure rate, sacks, which this system doesn't, they kind of want a box tackler to sit in the middle. He's underperforming the last couple seasons as a tackler. So this guy's an LB2 you can buy with the potential of plus more.
I agree with that. And again, I said, I'm a Queen guy. I love Queen, but if I could sell Queen and buy Peyton Wilson, I would do it for a little add-on. I think you're getting value at Wilson where Queen is still a little bit overrated. Our last buy here at LB, Tyrell Dodson, another guy that got moved around a bit. Everybody kind of was concerned, hey, what do you think it's going to be like for him going forward? What's his, snap share going to be? All that good stuff. He's a guy I really like too. So tell me and tell the people why you like Tyrell Dodson. So
I refuse to tell you because Jamie's in the chat and he won't trade him to me in my 32-team league. I offered him rookies. I offered him 2 rounds. But I'm a little bitter, Jamie, if you're listening. But Tyrell Dodson is my guy in these deeper leagues. Right now in camp as we speak, if you're following the news, he's wearing the green dot. He's everything for these guys. He's the one that's doing it all, calling the shots. What do we know about Dotson, okay? They say the rumor on him is he's not a great tackler. Well, geez, he was on 2 teams last year, and he's still got 100-plus tackles. So who is saying this? Who's they? That's what we say in the military. Well, they told me to do this. Well, who's they? Well, they said this. Who's they? I want to know who they is. And you tell me what a 100 tackler is or isn't is. But I'll tell you what the positive is, and this is why I'm in. He had an 82.9% coverage grade. You know how many other players in the NFL as a linebacker had that grade or higher? Just 9. Just 9. So if he can stay on the field for all 3 downs, which he's capable of, and that's what they're trying to groom him for, you're off to the races. You're going to have a 3-down guy in some of your deepest of leagues. So, yeah, Dotson's a stash for me, and I'm trying to get him on him quickly before any plays or any hype comes out of camp.
Yeah, I like him. I think Jordan guy's kind of falling under the radar a little bit. Jamie jumping in here. Jamie says, you offered me an unknown 7% owned player for Dotson who's over 50%. So Jamie's saying you're lying. You weren't giving me good enough players there. He said drafted Dotson in the 6 out of 10 best balls so far. Love him. So I think
there you go.
Jamie a believer too. So he loves him too.
The last part he sold himself back, but we're gonna do therapy on this podcast right now, JT. You run a Dynasty show, Jamie. You should be able to manage a counter, a maneuverability. Don't just leave me on red for 2 days and then just straight revoke me. I sent him a picture of Jean-Claude Van Damme as the Predator, and I'm like, this is me. This is you in your trades getting eaten. So, so he got that today from me. Look at this guy.
That's very good. Well, he jumps in and he says he took Singleton and then Peyton Wilson went with the next pick. How far apart do you have those guys? to me, this is a huge separation between redraft and dynasty.
Right.
Redraft, Singleton is probably still the guy because he's a guy just constantly just gets a million tackles. Even coming off the injury, you're probably going Singleton. Dynasty, I think it swings a lot. As Singleton's getting older, the injuries are piling up. Wilson, a younger player. Where are you at on these guys? How far a difference do you see them?
You just nailed it. The biggest difference is going to be redraft. Wilson's probably shaded outside top 50-ish because he's an LB2. Singleton, you can make top 10. You can make a case a little bit higher, a top 7, 8, somewhere in there. Singleton's still the truth in the redraft circle. It's a case of a guy's coming off a high and one's coming off a low kind of thing. So, they're way the heck off in redraft. Dynasty, it's a lot closer. So,
I definitely agree with you. Now we're going to get to defensive back, a position that a lot of people, they like to just ignore altogether. But I love it. And we've got two guys on the list who I have to be right now, honestly, my two favorite Dynasty DB buys. We're going to first start off Jalen Carlisle, Mizzou guy. He's one of my favorite guys from Mizzou. He played that star position at Missouri. That's like a little bit. It's an outside linebacker / strong safety. They move him around a bit.
So this is
a little hard to figure out where they go, right?
Yeah, this is the boring side of the house, but I got news for everybody. If you're going to pick up Jalen Carlisle, which I got in the offseason for nothing, he's got that LB/DB role. So on Sleeper and Yahoo, you can kind of exploit it. The NFL draft, they didn't pick anybody up to replace him. We're looking at free agency every day. Me and JT, we're looking every day. Right now, he's slotted as the LB2 on that team where EJ Speed used to play. Now, why is that significant? EJ Speed had over 1,000 snaps last year and 130 tackles. Imagine getting that as a defensive back. That would be a huge advantage. That's like a chess piece to any one of your teams. And it's an unheard name.
Yeah, unless you're a guy like me who knows Missouri or is a Colts fan, a lot of people aren't paying attention to him. A lot of people don't. He was injured last year. I picked him up in a dynasty league, just to stash on my IR. And I told my cousins, my co-owner in that league, and I said, we got to get this guy. He's like, I've never heard of this guy. I'm like, just wait. He's going to be a super value next year. I'm like, just wait for it. And I think the fact that they did not go anywhere in the draft, they went all DB guys, I think speaks volumes that they think he can take this job. Now, when he got a couple games in with Speed hurt last year, he looked really good. Then he got injured himself. So that was a little bit of an issue there. That off-ball second linebacker. This is a team loves to run 4 linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs. They've got my guy Kenny Moore in the slot. He's going to play that nickel corner. So, they're really only playing 1 to 2 linebackers out there. I think Carlisle, and again, Zaire Franklin isn't the best cover guy. So there's a chance you're going to get Carlisle, who played that linebacker DB / there's a good chance you're going to get him all 3 downs. If he ends up playing all 3 downs for the Colts and you go get him now, it's going to be an absolute steal. Now, is he going to have a monster year? I don't know. But if he starts all year and he gives us 80% of what you got out of EJ Speed last year for the price, it's a home run. It's an absolute
there you
home
go.
Run.
And you can put him as your DB. 2 things I'm killing at this year, I'm having a great year with. If I'm getting Travis Hunter and Sleeper, I'm putting a wide receiver in DB hole. And another one, if I'm not doing that, I'm putting Jalen Carlisle, a linebacker, a free linebacker in a DB hole. But yeah, I don't really think highly of these DBs. I kind of move them, buy, sell, trade as much as I can. Unless you're in like a 32-team league or something, you can usually pick up people as they come and go. And there's exceptions to the rule. I was talking to Jorge offline. If you got a box safety you trade up for and it's only a start 1 DB league, I got you. But context matters. It depends on the size of your league what I'm going to do at DB.
Yeah, the next guy that I think is one of my big buys, and again, because he's just so cheap, I had him in a bunch of leagues because he was my safety 2 last year going in the draft. He didn't go to the 4th round, so I took a little bit of a burn there that he didn't go to the 4th round. I still believed him. I still took him in a ton of leagues. I was like, hey, he's not going to play a lot this rookie year, but just wait. He's going to get in the lineup. He's going to be good. And we've seen it out of some of these tweeners out of Washington State the last couple years. Jane Hicks. We had Deion Henley, who moved from a safety to linebacker role for the Chargers. Anybody who went and got Henley was super bumped about it last year. They got massive return on Henley. I think you're going to get that on Jane Hicks at DB. He's going to go in. He's going to slide. Now, depending on what format you're in, I'm in a couple formats. RSO has him listed as a cornerback right now, which is an absolute steal if you can play him as a corner. He's going to play that box safety / nickel slot spot for the Chiefs. And we've seen the last couple seasons that scores an IDP. That position scores an IDP for the Chiefs. I think Jaden Hicks is better than the last two guys that have played there for the Chiefs that have been very good defensively and for IDP. I love Jaden Hicks. He's my favorite buy. I had him on a ton of teams already because I stashed him on any team I had taxi squad. But if I'm in one where I'm going out trying to buy a guy or get a guy off the waiver wire early on in my waiver process where I maybe spend a little more than I normally would to get a guy, I think it's Jaden Hicks.
Well said. If you guys remember last year, he was a top DB prospect, kind of got buried on the Chiefs roster. Like we were saying in the last segment, it's all about musical chairs, right? Well, now he kind of gets to play that full-time role. Hicks didn't get to play last year like much until week 10. And then when he got in at week 10, he never looked back. He only missed one single tackle the rest of the way. So top safety prospect in last year's draft, only missed one tackle from week 10 onward. Sign me up for that. I'm kind of curious to see what he does with a full line of work.
Yeah, I really am excited to see what he can do this year. And again, for the value, what you can get him for real cheap. I actually put him up in an auction IDP league kind of early on, thinking people would just ignore him. And I got outbid for him. And I was like,
ooh,
who is jumping on me and overbidding me? And then a couple guys were like, well, you put him up. So I figured he was really good. So I just kept bidding on him. I'm like, killing myself. I'm killing myself here. This is a great question. We'll bring this one up here, Steve. We'll see what you think about this one. This is the number one question I'm getting about rookies this year. What DB do you want? If you had your choice between Malachi Starks from Georgia, who went to the Ravens, or Aman from South Carolina, who went to the Seahawks. Starks into the first round. Aman they traded way up to the early second to get him right away. He was a guy that we thought would go. I didn't think he would ever get past the Colts. If he got to the Colts in the second round, I was like, they will be all over him. I think the Seahawks thought the same thing because they immediately traded up in front of the Colts to get him. Which guy do you like better, and your reasoning for wanting that guy over the other? We both know they're studs. I like them both a ton, but which guy would you prefer?
So let's break them down like boxers, tail of the tape, in one corner, the other corner, right? You got Starks, who's actually a really good defensive back. He was the top prospect early in the year. You know, he did really good at the combine with the drills and everything. He's a great safety, okay? Now you have Aman, okay? He's not that great in pass coverage. He's more of that tackler inside kind of guy. You got to have to hide him. But guess what he did? He broke it down at the combine. He had a near perfect Rozzy score, near perfect. So, you know, the hype on him is the metrics, advanced stats. The production goes on the Stark side. So, you know, when you're balancing these boxers up, when it's in the 9th round, you're trying to figure out which fighter you want. The tiebreaker comes to landing spots. So let's break this down, okay? Starks and Hamilton's going to be the box safety role, and Starks is going to have to play a little deeper. He's going to have to play that defensive back role like he does. It's not the same case for the Seahawks. They have Julian Love there, right? Julian Love can do both, but historically he can play deep. Aman, as I said, he's a bit of a liability in coverage. So they'll have him up in the green. They'll have him he's actually a green dot right now in OTAs. They'll have him in the box a little bit more, getting all those tackles. And that's what I want in IDP. It's a case of I don't necessarily want the best player. I want the one who's going to get that tackle box sweet spot role. And I know this one's going to get it. I can't say the same about Starks.
Starks has moved up for me a little bit with the Washington injury because now we know he's going to start. Before it was like, ooh,
right.
It was a great value, so the Ravens took him. I think Aman is kind of funny that we compare these 2 teams. I think Aman is like Kyle Hamilton, other than the fact that Aman crushed at the combine. He was everything you wanted as athletic DB. Why Hamilton wasn't, but guess who Hamilton is similar like? In Starks, that they're just really good football players. They know the field. They react well. They get to where they need to be, and just because they don't run a 4.40 doesn't mean they're not really good defensive backs, as we found with Kyle Hamilton, who fell a little bit in the draft because he didn't have off-the-charts metrics. But we saw that didn't bother him at all. He's been great for IDP. I think the same thing for Malachi Starks. I think his instincts and things are going to be great. I think the issue for him is, like you said, with the makeup of this team, he's probably going to have to play a little more deep. Where Aman, I think you got to play in close line. He's a guy I think you have to play downhill.
Right. Yeah, that's a liability problem. So he's going to be on the line. Yep. The Seahawks are already doing it now. With the Ravens, again, it remains to be seen how the preseason is going to unfold. But I mean, honestly, wouldn't you rather have Hamilton in the box? And old dude deep, it just makes logical sense to me. So that's how I am ranked. I have Imanawari 1 and Starks 2.
Yeah, and the biggest question for Imanawari is, what do they do with Julian Love? Does Julian Love stay in the box? Do they both play a little bit? Does that push Kobe Bryant out at free safety and Love play more free safety? So that's the little bit of worry on Imanawari is like, okay, he's also like, where does he start in this team? Where does he play? Because they already have Devin Witherspoon, who's the top, nickel corner there is, by the slot corner. So it's like he's already there. So, but Aman, I think in a tackle heavy league is going to be better for you, because I just think he's a guy that's going to play downhill, make plays all over the field, that type of guy. I do think Starks is a better overall real life player than Aman. Right. This is the way it is. I think he's just a better player. I just don't know if the situation is going to work out the same for him, because I think he's going to be really good, but is it going to be one of those situations where they have so many other studs already on the Ravens defense side of the ball? Like, how many tackles is he really going to get? Or are they just going to say, hey, dude, just don't let anybody else beat you because we've got all these guys in front of you.
Right. And we say all this with absolutes. Like, we know what's going to happen in camp. Like, we know these coaches. We have their numbers. Like, that kid had Shadur Sanders at the draft. We don't know any of this stuff. We don't. We're doing our best guesstimation for the audience and the people at home, but this is the way I see it going down based on the team scheme, based on the whatever. Same thing with JT. I mean, anything could change a drop of a hat. We could have a traumatic injury and it all changes, but I just think that's the way it's going to shift. I think for Imanawari, and I'm actually really high on him this year as a rookie, because I think he's going to get that sweet spot role, because they're already kind of sort of grooming him to do that.
I think if anything happens, they play him and Love moves around.
Yeah.
In all honesty, because Love's shown he can play both. And I think you want the older guy, if anybody's having to take on multiple responsibilities, you want the vet doing it, not the rookie. You want to tell the rookie, especially a guy with the speed he has, you don't want that guy thinking a lot. You want him reading and reacting, making plays.
One of the articles I wrote last year, and I'm pretty proud of this, I write the box snap safety report. We call it the safety dance. We could dance if we wanted. We can leave that world behind. I love doing that article for Fantasy Six Pack. And we just look at the safety positions and how they rotate. Julian Love was game-based. Sometimes he'd play deep free. Sometimes he'd come in. So it very much could be that they move around a little bit. But the money's on the one in the hand is better than two in the bush. The money's on Imanawari getting that sweet spot role. It remains to be seen how much Starks is going to get, except for his coverage ability with Kyle Hamilton there hogging everything,
Last couple of minutes of the show here. Let's just quickly jump into some of our sells. We'll kind of throw all these guys together. We briefly talked about it earlier. Patrick Queen, EJ Speed. We talked a bit about Queen kind of not playing as well as Wilson, maybe a little overhyped, maybe a guy you can sell for a decent amount. Speed, on the other hand, like we said, a guy that for Indy, he just kind of fit in that spot. The metrics weren't great. None of the stuff was great, but the fantasy numbers were fantastic because he played 1 million snaps and he just got a bunch. So he now goes to Houston. I'm worried about him playing in Houston. Are you on that train too, that you're just not sure where Speed works in Houston?
Big time, because if you remember last year, it was a one linebacker role, and everybody else was kind of like rotating that LB2 role. I mean, he's got to compete with Christian Harris, Henry To'o just to get on the field, And honestly, I'm probably going to get drugged for saying this. He wasn't that great. He had a 20% merely missed tackle rate, middling 71.5 against the run. His coverage was 46.3. Those numbers don't translate. You know what made him who he was last year? All that volume, snap production he got. He's not going to get it here. So I know there's a lot of shows that have him like valued high. I'm not knocking him, but I'm selling him as we speak. If you look at the metrics, it doesn't tell a story. And by the way, he's getting older. I mean, he's not some young buck. So
a couple guys that are ranked pretty high that you have on your sell list, and I've actually had a million questions about these guys, so I want to bring them up. First guy, what are we doing with Andrew Van Ginkel for the Vikings? Just out of control season last year for the Vikings. Just is like anything that could go right for him went right for him. Interceptions, touchdowns, everything. He finally got a relatively full-time role, and he did well with it. But the question is, was it a one-year wonder, or is it something he can repeat?
Yeah, 11.5 sacks, but he only had 43 wins from the line of scrimmage, and he's turning 30 in July. You also have a young, highly drafted pick and Dallas Turner in the background just waiting to get on the field. So I think the prime time, and that's what we want to tell the audience, you want to sell in the prime and buy on the low, right? This is prime Andrew Van Ginkel. I don't see him producing at that high rate. And if he does, it's a short window span, just based on his age and based on the youth and everything else around him. So just keep that in mind. 11.5 sacks on 43 wins. You got lucky, as opposed to Verse, who didn't connect, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And again, if you're in a league that has really a hard time selling and trading IDP players for decent value, if that's the case, you might just hold on that guy and just wait him out. If you can't get any kind of good value for him, just wait him out, play him, and help your team as much as possible. Another guy I want to bring up real quick, because you have on here, and I know a lot of people love him, and so I want to hear your reasoning for why he's on your sell list. And I think it might just because you think he's at an all-time high value. Oh, can you not hear me? Did you not hear me?
Yeah, who was it?
Oh, sorry, Frankie Louvu. A lot of people. Are you high? Do you think he's just at his top volume? Is that why you think he's a sell right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, with the case for Louvu, right? He was what? The second highest generating pressures, and then he was the first at a like attempted pressures. I mean, he was right there with Parsons. So yeah, he's a volume-based player. Not nothing that really jumps out to me in the metrics. So it's just another one of those things. If you're on your all-time high, I'd like to trade off on you now while I can get something out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I like Louvu. I'm not moving him unless I can get good value for him and probably a package deal. It's hard to trade IDP guys 1-for-1.
Yeah, I don't see him generating as much pressure if he doesn't get all
any last guys you want to throw in?
Anybody
last guy you want to throw in here before we close things?
Yeah, I'm going to call my shot for next season. How about that? I'm going to sell Donovan Wilson. He's getting older. He's on the last year of his contract. I just posted this, okay? There's a guy on the DB stashes, Dwante Thomas, Juanry. He's a guy, undrafted free agent. He's a cornerback / safety. If I'm right about this, and Wilson's on the way out, and Hooker, there's no guaranteed money left for him anymore. If I'm right about this is a free nickel back corner that is going to be starting for somebody soon. And just to give you guys context why I like this guy, PFF loves him. This is what he finished in 2023. He had an 81.1 PFF grade, 11th among safeties. His 85.9 coverage grade was 7th best. It was higher. Both of those things were higher than Antoine Winfield Jr. So just put that in mind. Put that for next year, maybe some point this year. Janu Thomas of the Cowboys, I can see him. If you have the ability to stash DBs, maybe go out and get him. I watched him play a little bit last year. I think he's the truth. Again, I'm calling my shots way too early, but that's a guy that I kind of want your audience to know about.
Nice. I love that one. That's a guy I want to go grab, get him off of waiver wires, free agent budget, stash him right now, especially in your league my IDP leagues, almost all my leagues, we extend rosters in the offseason to allow people to pick up a lot of guys, make moves, make a lot of trades. So we usually extend the rosters by about 10 spots in the offseason to let people have room to make some moves before you have to cut back down. So I'm one of those guys, if you're in a league like that, I'm in favor of going in early and hard on IDP players. Pick those guys up early while everybody else hasn't really looked into it yet because camp hasn't got all the way underway. Get those guys. If they lose a spot, then you just drop them. It's just a few dollars off your fab. But to me, you can get some monster steals, or if you know you're going to be in trouble getting your roster down, in a sell where you're selling off like 3 guys for 1, and you're technically taking a little bit of a loss, but you're like, hey, I was going to have to cut some guys anyway. So those are the things you can start thinking about now, kind of making those moves and kind of do all that. Last question, as we're at the hour mark, last question we have here before we close things out, coming from Jamie again. Jamie, thanks again for joining the show as always. Had a great time with you on the SFB live draft from Indy last weekend. I'm going to be talking about that with my buddy John McGlynn on Thursday morning. So if anybody's around, we're going to be discussing SFB 15, what I just did my draft and what their draft's coming up. But last question from him, Cody Barton for Redraft or Dynasty. What do you think about him? This is another guy that I've had a ton of questions about.
Cody Barton's that guy that just keeps getting work. You know what I mean? Like nothing special, nothing flashy in the pants. He just shows up for work every day. He's volume-based. He's Redraft. I got him as a sell simply because, there's going to be some contending team that needs a flex. I actually sold him 2 places and I bought him in my all IDP league. So it's all interpretive based on where your team is. You know what I mean? But that's who Cody Barton is. He's kind of not that great of a player. We could have used him in that analogy with Alex Anzalone earlier. But yeah, he's volume-based, nothing spectacular. But for some reason, he's got a good agent. His agent's great. He always finds him a great place that he can just work. Daniel Jones, too. Whoever's agent is Daniel Jones and Cody Barton, how do these guys keep finding jobs? How do they keep finding work? I want that.
That's right. Yeah, that's fine. Young guys, listen up. Find those guys to be your agent. Yeah, Cody Barton for me, yeah, I'm selling him too. In Redraft, he's a guy for me that's perfect. If you're like, man, I'm a little shallow at off-ball linebacker, and I just need a vet in case everything goes wrong or I get a bunch of injuries. Barton's a guy you can probably go. It's a nice, safe backup play for you that you're not going to have to spend too much to get. So
3-down linebacker, top 30 range for Redraft.
Exactly. So I think he's not, I'm not buying him. Most places I'd sell him, just like you said. But where I am buying is where I can get him cheap, and I just maybe am just a little shallow on my roster. Just maybe can use one more guy.
So I wasn't going to put this out, but since it's on the podcast, I'll just end the show on this note. I traded Andrew Van Ginkel to a really, really eager guy in an expert draft on another podcast for Cody Barton, Germaine Sherwood, and Blake Cashman. And I think I gave up a late-round pick. So just to show you, we practice what we preach here. We make the trades that we're talking about. So
yeah.
I like that. I like that mood. I like that move because again, I can see people loving Van Ginkel, think he's got another good year in him. I like him all right. We've been in some debates at DLF whether he should be a top 150 player or not. People are like, is he? Because they're like, dude, where are you really? So again, he is a guy that is a little divisive on where you kind of have him. So I think that's a nice trade.
Same team. I got Dallas Turner on the taxi. So it's just airspace and opportunity. I'm waiting on time. But, hey, the guy wanted a DL. I helped you out, okay?
Yeah, you got to love that. So, Steve, let everybody know where they can find you at IDP Hunter on the X Twitter machine. Where else they can find your work?
You can find me at Jamie's house during the Fantasy Football Expo. We'll be there doing the Kings Classic. That's a must every season. I'm on RPO football. I do the every down linebacker. I'm on the Fantasy Six Pack. I do the box snap safety report. IDP Center has the DL stream of the week. I help those guys out too. And then lastly, I have the channel, the RPO football show, which me and Jamie do in season. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to having you on as well, JT, for the season. We always have a good time on there.
Love to. Yeah, would love to come on there. For me, you can always find me here on Shoot the Gap on Fantasy and Frames. Also, Dynasty 365. Everybody else has got other stuff going on. I'm actually going to do a quick Dynasty 365 episode after this. So if you guys are around, stick around. I'm going to talk about my favorite offensive rookies in Dynasty drafts right now. What is my favorite value in each round that you can get? So I'm going to do a quick solo one of that. So stick around if you want to throw me questions on guys you like. Would love to do that. I'm going to throw a quick show together on that. Before we have the guys on Fourth and Frames, our redraft show at the end of the night, they're going to be coming on at 10 o'clock Eastern. So stick around for them. Other than that, you can find me on DLF. If you're a member over there, I do my IDP rankings, top 150. I got my top 25 rookies for the rookie drafts right now, and I'm going to update those because there's a couple guys that are moving up and down my list a little bit as I'm getting some more camp information here. If you guys, I'm just swapping one or two spots, but definitely take a look at that. And if you're into Devy, I started doing the Devy rankings. I'm in like 4 college C2C and CFF drafts right now. So if you're into Devy rankings, and things like that is as we're going through here. So make sure to check out all that stuff. Stick around here on Fantasy Frames. Steve, I want to thank you, the IDP Hunter, for helping me out tonight while Jorge was out of town and joined the family. We'll check you guys next time here. Make sure you're liking, subscribe us, follow us on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Thanks everybody for JT and IDP Hunter. Steve, we're out of here.
Thank you so much.